Great. Okay, so like I said, I'm our clinical coordinator here at CCU. I've been doing this job now for 2 years, and I think with every semester that passes by, I learn something new. I learn something that our students need or that our site supervisors need, and so this orientation has kind of been adapted since I've been in this role, and hopefully you'll find it useful. And if you have questions, like I said, go ahead and save those for the end, and I'll try to answer all those for you before we get off the call here. Okay, so I briefly just wanted to go over a little bit about what our site supervisor survey has said in the past. So this is 2017 site supervisor results I'll be talking about. We just got all of our results. We actually just closed our site supervisor survey on Saturday for all of our site supervisors who were supervising students in the fall of 17 and the spring and summer of 18. So we'll be going through that information here shortly. But from our previous site supervisor survey, I just wanted to share, so we do this, you'll get this sent out to you around this time next year. And we do this because it is part of our KCREP vital statistics survey requirements that we need. But also we just want to know too, what's going on, how you guys have either enjoyed our students, or if you've had any concerns about our students, we want to know that. We also want to know if there's areas that we as a university could improve. Your experience with our faculty, your experience with, myself as a clinical coordinator. So that's partially why we do the survey. But we surveyed students, or supervisors, in 2017. We sent it out to 18 site supervisors. And just to give you an idea of our growth, I just sent out our last survey in August to 161 supervisors. So we have definitely grown over the last year. Each year we tend to grow. So we sent it out though for 2017 to 82 site supervisors, and we received completed surveys from 46. So we had a response rate of 56%, which is great. And the main thing, I won't go over all the details, but the main thing I just wanted to share is that our site supervisors are reporting that our CCU counseling students are more clinically prepared, have higher levels of ethical awareness, greater levels of empathic disposition, and provide non-discriminatory clinical services better than the average counseling student at their site. So we're hoping that this continues to stay consistent with our students year to year, and we are hoping, again, that this is what you will experience with your CCU student at your site as well this year. So professional practice is something that you're going to hear us throw around, and what I mean by professional practice experience is going to be practicum and internship. So we are a KCREP accredited program, and so KCREP refers to their practicum and internship experiences as professional practice. So that does include the professional practice or the practicum and internship experience providing application of theory and the development of counseling skills under supervision. These experiences will provide opportunities for students to counsel clients who represent the ethnic and demographic diversity of their community. So all of our students that you're working with, they are starting that journey with their practicum experience this fall. I'm going to go over just real quickly. If you are supervising our students, then you already are meeting the qualifications, but just so you are aware, you signed a contract, and so you've seen this somewhere within the paperwork that you've signed. But just so you're aware, these are the supervisor qualifications, and these come directly from KCREP. And so all of our site supervisors that are working with our students, they have to have a minimum of a master's degree, preferably that's in counseling or some sort of related profession. They have to have their relevant license within their state, and then they have to have a minimum of 2 years of pertinent professional experience in counseling. They have to have a knowledge of the program, expectations, requirements, and evaluation procedures, which is partially why we're doing this orientation. And they have to have relevant training in counseling supervision. So the more we learn about K-CREP and what they require from us, the more we adapt our program to meet those requirements. And so part of what I do is I'm collecting your guys' information. That's why your student intern has asked you for your resume, or they've asked for your license. That's part of what we have to do as a university. We keep that information on file. I look everybody up with the state database. I check their qualifications, and I make sure that you guys have the appropriate experience needed. And then we do orientations and trainings to also meet these requirements. And so some of you may have gotten emails from me asking for some sort of documentation of your training. And that's just to keep on file so that, we have that and we can show that our supervisors are trained. But part of what we provide here at CCU is we do provide site supervisor training through a video. So you should have gotten a link to that video the first day of the fall semester. I sent out an email with that, along with a form that I've asked you guys to send me back, just saying that you have watched that video. So that's a 16-minute video about from one of our faculty members here at CCU, and that does satisfy the requirements for supervisor training. We also will be providing webinars and other training opportunities for you that are not required, but we would love to have you there. We just want to give that to you as a service, since you guys are servicing our students in their practicum and internship. So I'm going to just go over really briefly some of the requirements that our students have for practicum and internship. Again, all this information is on the contract that you signed, so I know you've seen it. But I just want to break it down for you and give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions you might have. But your students are starting their practicum experience this semester. So for that experience, they're required 100 hours. Those 100 hours are broken down in a 40-60 split between direct and indirect hours. So all of the students are required at least 40 direct clinical contact hours, and then the remainder are indirect. So some students will get more than 40 direct hours, which is just less indirect hours that they need to collect. Your students are also required to do 1 or 2 sessions that are either audio or video recorded. This is going to be a requirement for their class. So right now, all of your students are enrolled in a practicum class here at CCU. And those classes are a little different than the rest of their classes. These are small, like maxed out at 12 student classes. And even our online students are meeting weekly at the same time. They're all logging in, meeting with their faculty, and sitting through an hour and a half of practicum class. And part of what they're doing in that class is they're going to bring their audio or their video recording of their session to class, and they will show that to their class and their faculty member. And it will be acting kind of like a group supervision, where they will have written up a case conceptualization on that client, and they'll be getting feedback from their faculty and their classmates. So we require that they do that once or twice each semester. And if that's not an option at your site, then live observation is the next option. And that would be where you as the supervisor would sit in on the student's counseling session live, and you'll fill out like an evaluation form on them. And so the student will provide that to you if that's what the option is that they need to go with. But we really try to push for our students to get that video if they can. If not, then we try to, then look at the audio as an option. And then third option would be the live observation. The remainder of those hours, like I said, after they collect those 40 clinical contact hours, is going to be indirect hours. This will come from a variety of ways, and I'll show you some definitions here in a second. But part of the way that they will get those indirect hours is through their supervision. And so students are required to collect 1 hour of individual or triadic supervision with you as their supervisor. And they have to log at least 14 hours of this during the 14-week semester. And so there is a little bit of wiggle room, especially I think here in the fall semester, because they have breaks. So we technically The semester technically is longer than 14 weeks. They're just in class for 14 weeks, but that gives them, you know, an opportunity to make up a supervision if they don't get one week, or if you're out of town or something like that. Or they could double up if they needed to. So there is some flexibility, but we do ask that they are receiving that supervision throughout the semester. And so that they're not collecting, you know, 8 hours of supervision in the last couple weeks of the semester. We really want them to be meeting with you regularly, discussing cases and making sure that they're getting that adequate supervision. They're also going to be collecting 1.5 hours of group supervision in their class, like I said before, and that's weekly. And that also counts towards their indirect hours, but that is separate from their 14 hours that they need to collect with you. So that's practicum. These students, if they collect more than 100 hours in the semester, then they will not be able to carry those over into internship. Practicum and internship are separate in that way. So if students have more than 100 hours, that's fine, but unfortunately they cannot carry those over. And they do have to get their 100 hours to be able to move on to internship. Okay, so yes, Sally asked a question in the chat. I'm assuming 40 direct hours would be at least 3 clients a week for the 14 weeks. Yeah, I think it would average out to about that. I mean, we kind of tell students that it's going to be slow in the beginning probably to build their caseload. They might, you know, start off with a client. And so that they probably need to be having, you know, 3 to 4 clients on their caseload that they're seeing to make sure that they get their hours that they need. This could also be group work. So direct hours would be group counseling. So anytime they're working with an actual client. And they are allowed to have more. Yes, that is absolutely fine. So we just would want, we would want you, you know, we put a lot of freedom in the site and the site supervisor to sit down with the student and to figure out what's going to be best for you guys. You know, and some students will be able to handle more in the beginning than others. So that is kind of up to you guys to figure out. And we have another question. It says the practicum students are shadowing sessions. Do these shadow sessions count towards hours? So shadowing sessions can count towards indirect hours, but they don't count towards their direct hours. Direct hours would be where they're actually interacting with the client. So if they're doing co-counseling with you or another, you know, therapist, then they could count that. But if they're just shadowing or observing, then that cannot count as direct, but they can get hours for that. It would just go in the indirect column. Okay. One last thing I will say before we jump into internship is that because of the way that our semesters fall, students will have a winter break that will come up in December. So I think our semester goes to like December 15th or 16th. And then we usually start up around like January 8th again. And so during that winter break, students have been told, and it is also on their contract that you guys signed, that they can continue to see clients during that time. However, they will not be under supervision at CCU, and they cannot count those hours towards their internship. So that would be just up to them and you as a site supervisor to determine. We also do tell students that they need to check with their state. Some states will say you cannot be seeing clients unless you're enrolled in a class. Colorado is not one of those. Colorado, I think Colorado says they need to be registered with the state. So each student is responsible for checking with their state to make sure that they are following their individual state mental health statutes. But that is something for you guys to be aware of, that if your student is not going to be seeing clients, that they are preparing, you know, some sort of, you know, either termination with clients or just preparing those clients that they will be on a break. If you are hoping that your student will continue to see clients, then just be having those discussions with them early on. Okay, so we'll move into internship, and if you guys have more questions about practicum that come up, you can either stick them in the chat or we can talk about them at the end. So internship happens over a minimum of 2 semesters. Students are required to collect 600 total hours. And again, they break up kind of that 40-60 split. A minimum of 240 of those hours have to be direct client contact hours. And it says here that they need at least 10 hours of leading or co-leading a counseling group. They need that within practicum or internship. It used to be that we required that in an internship, and now we just require it to happen at some point in practicum or internship. A lot of students will have more than 10 hours, but they do at least need a minimum of 10. The remainder, again, of their hours, once they get those 240 direct hours, will be indirect hours. And then site supervision stays the same. They're required to collect 14 hours of site supervision each semester. And that is individual or triadic, so 2 students to 1 supervisor. A lot of students will do internship in 2 semesters, and a lot of students will do it in 3. So we kind of, I would say maybe 75% of our students try to do it in 2. So their whole experience, professional practice experience, would happen over 3 semesters, kind of like from August to August. But a lot of students know that they're going to need that 3rd semester of internship just because they're working full time, or they have a family at home, or maybe they've already made an agreement with you as a site that they would be there for that time. So some students will be with you from August to like December of the following year. So you should already know that information because you would have filled out a contract with your student and you guys would have determined their start and end dates. A lot of our sites are really flexible with our students, and so they might sign a contract for 3 full semesters and then extend it a semester. So if that's something that you guys are willing to do, then we always, we're okay with that. But we do ask our students to do their very best to honor their contracts with you. And so if they have signed a contract with you for a full year, but they get their hours done early, we really ask them to honor that contract unless you as a site and site supervisor are okay with it, them breaking that early. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. Any questions about internship hours before we move on? Very similar to practicum. Okay. So we've kind of talked about this already, but I just wanted to show you guys these definitions. Again, all this comes from KCREP. So direct hours are supervised hours, counseling, consultation, related professional skills with actual clients. That can be individuals, couples, families, groups, for the purpose of fostering social, cognitive, behavioral, and/or affective change. These activities must involve interaction with others and may include assessment, counseling, psychoeducational activities, and consultation. So it's specific, but it's also kind of broad. And again, we do really just trust our site supervisors to sign off on direct hours that are actually direct hours. So sometimes it'll look a little non-traditional, but it will be work with actual clients. And if it's therapeutic in nature and you feel confident signing off on that, then we're going to trust your judgment on that since you're the one working with the student more day to day. But if it's not direct and it's not with actual clients, it's more like observing, record keeping, admin activities and duties, supervision, etc., then those would fall in that indirect category. If you're not sure, you're more than welcome to contact me and ask me and we can talk through it. But most of the time, like I said, you guys have been doing this and you're pretty confident and you know what falls under that direct or indirect category. There are some little nuances that we have here at CCU that are in our professional practice manual that the student is aware of. They have signed a document saying they have read through that already, but just so you're aware, we only allow students to count 25 hours of like milieu therapy towards direct. And so we have a couple little things like that in our manual that we have just come to conclusions over the years working with students on. So if you have questions about that, feel free to shoot me an email, but you should have gotten a copy of the manual as well. But the students are responsible for knowing that. So if you're unsure ask your student. They should be able to get that information. They should already have that information. And if all else fails, you guys can contact me. I'm happy to help you out with those kind of questions as well. So real quickly, you guys have already, like I said, you should have signed a contract with your student already. I have those all on file. One thing I just want to make note is that if anything ever changes with you, or a student has like an additional supervisor, or maybe they're switching supervisors for whatever reason, that means we need a new contract. And so the students are aware of that, but I want to make sure you guys are aware of that as well. And like I said before, we really take our contracts very seriously, and we do ask our students to honor those contracts with you, unless there is some sort of extenuating circumstance. Obviously, if there's a problem going on at the site or with the student, we want to know about that. And if the site needs to break a contract, we want to know about that as well. And then I just require, if a student or a site needs to break the contract, I just require an email from you as a site supervisor letting me know, like, this is happening, we're breaking this contract and this is why, so that we can just have that on file. Sometimes that's also just because, a student needs to break a contract for whatever reason, and I just want to make sure that you have been informed, that you guys already have a plan to, transfer or terminate clients, and that we're able to end that contract on good terms. And so just an email letting us know is all that I need for that. But we really try to avoid breaking contracts if at all possible. And like I said, if there ever is a change with a supervisor, then we just need a new contract for that as well. So this is kind of, we've already gone over this, but I'll just say one more time. Internship students, they should be having weekly interaction with you as a supervisor. Practicum and internship students, actually. We want them to be having interaction with you weekly, even if they're not in supervision that week for whatever reason, you guys don't have supervision scheduled. We want to make sure they're just having contact with you, that they feel like they have support from you and that you are aware of what's going on. They are required to collect 14 hours of supervision on site. And again, they'll be collecting an hour and a half of class or group supervision weekly. So I'm going to pull up, this is the CCSR is what we use to evaluate our students, and I'm going to see if I can pull it up and show it to you real quick. I'm going to go ahead and show you my time to track screen because the CCSR will be in there. Can you guys see that? Okay. I'm going to do a little tutorial of time to track for you guys, but I'm just going to pull up a form really quick so that you can see what these look like. So all of our forms are sent through time to track. So this is the counselor competency scale, and it is going to be sent to you through time to track mid-semester and at the end of the semester. And so we ask that you evaluate the students twice a semester and that you would go over this with the student in supervision. So the instructions are going to be listed here at the top, and then it's just going to be, it's going to look like multiple choice, and you're going to be rating your students on this scale here, and it shows you here what the scale is. So exceeds expectations would be a 5, meets expectations 4, and then so on. We would really expect that our practicum students specifically would be, near and meeting expectation. It's great if they're exceeding expectation, but that we wouldn't expect that from our students, especially their first semester seeing clients. So Vicki is asking, are there 2 evals each term for practicum also, or just internship? So this would be for practicum and internship. So again, obviously we don't want to see, our students scoring harmful 1, but if they are, then we want to know about that too. So I would hope that if you had a student that was in that position, that would be something you would already be letting their faculty know about. But you would just go through here and you would score them. And so you're going to score them on counseling skills and therapeutic conditions here in part 1. And then in part 2, it's going to be counseling dispositions and behaviors. Okay. And then there's an opportunity here to give some feedback. And then you would actually sign off here electronically. And then you would be able to, yours will look a little different than mine. It will say, I think it gives you an option to save, but also gives you an option to submit. Once you submit it, then it shows up in your student's time to track account. And the two of you can go over that in supervision together, and they will also electronically sign it. They will then print this off and they will submit this to their class. Okay. So that's what the evaluation looks like. Again, this happens mid-semester and the end of the semester. Okay. I'll go over time to track here as well. But do you guys have any questions about the CCSR? Okay. So time to track, this is where all of our students are logging their activities, and they're getting approval from you, and they're getting verification from their faculty members. So we ask our site supervisors to approve all hours for students. This will include students' class time when they're doing their group supervision, like practicum or internship class that I talked about. And the reason we do it that way is partially because that's how time to track is set up, but also it kind of comes from when we used to use paper logs, and our students would fill everything out on paper, including their class time would go on there, and then their site supervisors would sign it and their faculty would sign it. So time to track is very similar. Students will be logging all of their activities in there. They will send off their hours for approval. You will then see them and you will be able to approve them or deny them if you need to. And then once you do that, the student's faculty member, whoever's teaching their practicum or their internship class, will be able to review those hours and they'll be able to verify them. So for example, the only time a faculty member would probably need to deny something is if a student logged that they were in class that week and you approved it, but the student was actually not in class, then the faculty member would deny that. That doesn't usually happen, but that's just kind of so that you know, a faculty member is there to verify those and they can review those. But for the most part, you're going to be the one approving those hours, and the faculty are just going to trust you in that and verify that. So I'm going to pull back my time to track really quick so you guys can see. So this is a supervisor's view that I'm in. So it should look very similar to yours. The main function that you would have in time to track is going to be approvals and forms. And so if you click on your approvals tab, you may or may not have anything in your approvals tab yet. We really encourage students to log activities weekly and send them off for approval weekly. And then we would encourage you as a supervisor to log into time to track weekly and approve those hours. That way you guys aren't, doing weeks and weeks of hours at one time, but rather you're getting in there every week during supervision or right before supervision and looking over those hours. So students should get in there, they should log those, and then they have to send them off for approval. Once they do that, you'll see on your approvals tab a list of activities. And so you'll see right here, I'll just kind of show you, I've done lots of different demos here. So you'll see the activity listed here, and I have approved it as a supervisor, so it says approved. The one below it has been approved by me, and it's been verified by the faculty. This one down here, I rejected, so that's what it looks like when it's been rejected. And then if there's hours that have not been approved that I need to review, then it'll just show the submitted icon here. So I'll click on that one because I haven't done anything with it yet. So you'll see when you click on it, you'll see the approval request, and it'll show your student's name here. It'll show exactly what it is. So this student submitted site individual supervision, clinical training, and individual counseling for a total of 4 hours. And it'll show when it was submitted and by who. And as a supervisor, you have the opportunity to approve or reject. So you'll just go ahead and click approve as long as those look good. You can post a note if you need to. And then once you do that, it shows up here as approved. And actually, I just got an email letting me know because I have a demo student account. So you should get emails from Time to Track anytime your students are submitting activities that need to be approved. But I would just recommend for best practice, just getting in there weekly and taking a look. So that's the biggest function you're gonna have. You're gonna be in here weekly doing that. The other thing you'll be doing is those forms and those evaluations. So you'll have a forms tab. You might not have it yet. It should appear once I send a form to you. So once I send those CCSRs here in a couple weeks for that mid-semester evaluation, your forms tab will appear. You'll click on it and you'll see your forms here. So you'll see I have a couple forms in here that I've done with different demos, and it'll show you the status as well. So what you need to do is you need to fill out the form, and like I said, then you need to submit it. If you don't submit it, if you just save it, then your student will never see it. Sally asks, does the email with the form list the date it is due? Yes, absolutely. I'll make sure that that's all in there for you, and your student will know as well, because it's an assignment for the student to submit that to their class. But I'll make sure that information is in the email as well. I usually try to send you guys an email at the same time that I'm sending the forms. So the email that you'll get from Time to Track will just say that you have a form, but you should then also be receiving an email from me that just lets you know I sent you guys a CCSR. This is due, at this date for the students, with all the information that you need. And again, your students are the ones that are responsible for this. So they should be following up with you. They should start asking you, did you receive the CCSR? This is something that I need to turn into my class. And they should know when all that's due as well. Okay, so everything in Time to Track works very similar. The students, they can log their activities, but you won't see them until they submit them. Same thing with forms. You can fill it out and save it, but the student won't see it till it's been submitted. So there always needs to be that submit option that happens for the other person to actually see it in their account. Okay. And then you should have a students tab as well. And once your students have set up their placement and they've assigned you as their supervisor, and they've started to actually log things and send them over for approval, you should be able to see them listed here. So it's pretty basic. Do you guys have any questions about Time to Track? Okay. The help desk is really wonderful as well. I'm happy to help you too. So if you have anything that comes up or you have questions or things just don't look right, you can always contact me. And then the help desk as well is really great. And they are help@timetotrack.com. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to make you guys aware of is our upcoming webinar. So we try to do a webinar twice a year, and usually one in the fall semester, one in the spring semester. So this one is going to be Wednesday, September 26th at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You should have received one email about this, and I'll be sending out more emails as we get closer with a Zoom link that you guys will be able to use to access the webinar. And there's no need to RSVP, but Dr. Fenton Nichols, that is going to be presenting, she is saying that you can feel free to send her your experiences to share and discuss with the attendees prior to the webinar. So she did provide her email address to be able to do that. So the topic is supervision challenges, what do we do now? And we would love for you to attend. If you're unable to, I will be recording that as well and sending that out later so you guys can watch that. And again, this isn't required, it's just something we like to offer. Okay, that is all I have. So I'm going to stop the recording, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to unmute.